Stay with me now because we are entering the very engine room of your reality. I must paint a vivid picture for your imaging faculty because your imagination is not merely a tool for idle daydreaming. It is the absolute creative force of your life. It is the pair of scissors of the mind continuously cutting out the events of your future. Imagine that your subconscious mind is a vast, fertile garden of extraordinary potential. The soil of this garden is incredibly rich. The spiritual sun shines upon it constantly. The rain of divine grace comes at exactly the right moments. Everything about this inner garden is perfectly designed by a great organizing intelligence to grow the magnificent, abundant, spectacular flowers and fruits you have always desired. You must understand a vital law about this soil. This soil does not judge you. It does not argue with your logic. It does not try to protect you from your own destructive commands. If you plant a seed of wheat, it will grow wheat. If you plant a seed of toxic nightshade, it will grow deadly nightshade with the exact same perfect efficiency. The soil simply obeys the seeds it is given. That garden is your subconscious mind, and your spoken words and inner emotional images are the seeds you cast into it every single second of the day. Now imagine that every single morning you wake up and walk out into that beautiful garden. But instead of planting seeds of prosperity, instead of watering the good that is already trying to sprout beneath the surface, you perform a ritual of destruction. You walk out there and you start aggressively pulling things up. You yank out the delicate seedlings of new opportunity simply because they do not look exactly how you expected them to look. You pour the toxic water of doubt onto the fertile soil. You verbally declare to the garden that it is not working fast enough. You stand in the middle of your own divine potential, look over the fence to compare your garden to your neighbor's garden, and declare your own ground a miserable failure. And then you walk back inside your house, sit down at your kitchen table, and genuinely wonder why nothing beautiful is growing in your financial life. You wonder why the money is not flowing despite your long hours of physical labor. You feel exhausted and betrayed by life, entirely unaware that the barren landscape you are looking at is the exact landscape you commanded into existence just moments before. We have been doing this with our relationship to money our entire lives. We have been doing it so automatically, so unconsciously, so thoroughly ingrained in our daily routine that we do not even notice we are doing it anymore. It has become as natural as breathing. But instead of breathing life and expansion in, we are breathing our abundance out. You might be a person who works 10 or 12 hours a day. You might be honest, kind, and diligent in your physical actions. But if your imaging faculty is constantly visualizing failure, debt, and lack, your physical labor is completely neutralized by your mental labor. The subconscious mind is always listening to the dominant image you hold, not the amount of sweat on your brow. If you hold an inner image of yourself perpetually struggling to pay the rent, the universe looks at that image and says it must organize people, circumstances, and events to ensure you continue struggling to pay the rent. That is the architectural blueprint you keep submitting to the universal builder. You cannot hold a picture of poverty in your mind and expect to walk into a reality of wealth. The inner world must match the outer world. There is a profound clash happening within you right now. You desire wealth with your conscious mind, but your subconscious imaging faculty is entirely occupied with moving pictures of poverty. You read books on prosperity, yet you walk through the grocery store mentally calculating prices with a deep, heavy feeling of restriction in your chest. That feeling of restriction is a powerful decree. The subconscious mind does not speak English, Spanish, or French. It speaks the language of feeling and imagery. When you state an affirmation of wealth, but feel a deep anxiety about your bills, the subconscious mind ignores the hollow words and immediately acts upon the anxiety. It takes that heavy feeling of impossibility and begins to construct your tomorrow out of it. The imaging faculty is a continuous projector. Whatever emotional film you run through, it is exactly what plays on the physical screen of your life. If you run a film of constant financial emergencies, the universe will faithfully supply the emergencies to match your mental movie. Here is the part that I really want you to sit with right now, because this is where the truth gets fascinating and entirely uncomfortable at the same time. The reason your money is not flowing is not an external mystery. The real reason, the underneath it all root of the whole tree reason, is that somewhere in your subconscious mind, there is a rigid agreement pushing wealth away. Somewhere deep in the basement of your beautiful brain, there is a solidified belief that says, money is inherently hard to get. Or perhaps it is a belief that you fundamentally do not deserve it. You might secretly believe that wanting more makes you greedy, or that your spiritual worth is somehow tied to your financial struggle. You might look at wealth and silently decide that people like you do not just have abundance show up in their lives. You tell yourself that real wealth is only for other people. You convince yourself it is for people with the right connections, people with incredible luck, or people who were born into the perfect circumstances. These are not facts. These are weeds you have allowed to take root in your garden, absorbing all the nutrients that were meant for your prosperity. This brings us to the delicious irony of your current situation. You have been working so incredibly hard against yourself that you have actually become genuinely brilliant at it. You are not a failure at manifestation. You are a highly successful manifester of lack. You have mastered the absolute art of blocking your own flow. It actually takes a tremendous amount of mental energy to keep abundance away from you, because the natural state of the universe is absolute increase. Every time you open a bill and sigh with deep emotional despair, you are giving an eviction notice to your wealth. Every time you say you cannot afford something with a feeling of heavy finality, you are instructing the garden to permanently stop producing. You are using your divine, God-given imaging faculty as a weapon against your own joy. You are building walls to keep the ocean of supply out, and then complaining about thirst. We must completely overhaul this mental machinery tonight. When you finally understand that your mind is the singular cause of your financial reality, you stop blaming the economy. You stop blaming your employer. You stop feeling like a helpless victim of circumstance. You step into the profound, unshakable realization that if you created this blockage through your unconscious imaging, you absolutely possess the power to dissolve it through conscious, deliberate imaging. Tonight, we are going to uninstall that particular talent of self-sabotage and replace it with something far more useful. We are going to change the film in your projector. We are going to teach your imaging faculty to see the invisible supply before it becomes visible. By taking control of the images you hold in your mind, you prepare the ground for the miraculous. You stop fighting the old reality and you simply begin to image the new one, which prepares us perfectly to understand the magnificent law of non-resistance. We have just established that your subconscious imaging faculty dictates your physical reality. Now we must understand the supreme law that governs exactly how these images materialize in the physical world. There is a principle older than any recorded history, older than any book that has ever been written, which dictates that the universe operates on a perfect, infallible system of return. The game of life is essentially a game of boomerangs. Whatever you send out into the field of your existence in word, thought, and deep emotion inevitably returns to you multiplied. This is not mystical wishful thinking or some fragile philosophical concept. It is the fundamental law of cause and effect applied to human consciousness. The most brilliant minds in quantum physics and psychology have been describing this exact reality for a century, though they use different terminology. When you send out a vibration of sheer terror regarding your finances, you are setting a cause into motion. When you jolt awake at 3 in the morning, doing the terrifying mathematics of lack in your head until you feel like you are drowning in a sea of debt, you are actively instructing the universe to send you circumstances that justify that exact terror. You are broadcasting a powerful, magnetic command for more panic, and the universe will obediently supply the conditions for it. This brings us to the profound and frequently misunderstood law of non-resistance. The greatest spiritual teachers throughout history have always commanded us to resist not evil. In the direct context of your wealth, this means you must entirely stop fighting poverty. When you fight debt, you are acknowledging debt as a supreme power in your life. You are giving it your vital life force and your absolute attention. In the spiritual realm, whatever you fiercely resist will persist, multiply, and solidify. If you wake up every single day prepared to battle your bills, the universe will ensure you always have a fresh, endless supply of bills to battle, so your assumed identity as a struggling warrior is perfectly maintained. You are generating immense spiritual friction. Think of a mighty, flowing river. Water never fights the rocks or the massive boulders in its path. It does not argue with the obstacles. It simply rises above them, or flows smoothly around them. It reaches the vast ocean through the power of absolute non-resistance. Yet most of humanity approaches their financial life like someone violently striking a stone wall with their bare hands, secretly hoping the wall will somehow turn into gold through sheer physical suffering and exhaustion. Money is not merely paper, metal, or digital numbers illuminating a bank screen. Money is dynamic, flowing energy wrapped entirely in your emotional instructions. You have likely noticed exactly how this energy behaves when it encounters a resistant, fearful mind. The money trickles in on payday. It hesitates. It looks around your bank account like it just entered a profoundly hostile environment and quietly slips right back out the door before you can even catch your breath. You work incredibly hard. You try every new strategy. You plan meticulously. You even budget sometimes heroically. And yet money still behaves like a highly frightened guest who refuses to stay long enough to help you pay the rent. Let me offer a profound reassurance to your weary spirit right now. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are not cursed by the heavens. You are not inherently unlucky, and contrary to what your own anxieties might suggest, you are not simply bad with money. You are simply running an invisible, deeply ingrained program of hostility toward wealth, and until that program is rewritten, the external struggle will remain exactly the same. You must fundamentally understand that money does not respond first to physical effort. It responds to agreement. It responds to belief, to expectation, and to the quiet, emotional decrees you make while sitting in traffic or sighing heavily over a receipt at the grocery store. Society has conditioned you to believe that financial salvation comes exclusively through extreme physical exhaustion. But exhausting physical labor without spiritual alignment produces nothing but more weariness. If hard work alone produced wealth, the hardest physical laborers in the world would be the wealthiest, but we know this is not the physical reality we observe. Wealth responds directly to your inner expectation. It requires your absolute, unbothered permission to enter your life. Every time you declare that you never have enough, you are issuing a strict eviction notice to your own prosperity. You are looking at the infinite universal supply and declaring a binding agreement of lack. The universe, which always unconditionally honors your dominant agreement, simply nods and closes the valve. You are not suffering from a lack of supply. You are suffering from a perfectly executed agreement with poverty. Let us observe this law in practical, everyday motion. Consider two people working the exact same job, sitting at the same desk, and earning the exact same salary. Consciously, they both desperately want financial freedom, but they live in completely different financial universes. One employee always seems to have opportunities effortlessly flowing their way. They receive unexpected bonuses, they stumble upon incredible deals, their investments grow miraculously, and their money seems to stretch effortlessly to cover all their desires. The other employee is plagued by constant, draining, relentless emergencies. The very moment they save a little money and feel a brief moment of relief, the car breaks down, a sudden medical bill appears, or a major appliance stops working entirely. These sudden expenses appear like uninvited guests carrying heavy luggage, completely wiping out their savings. This vast, heartbreaking difference in experience is not the result of blind chance or divine favoritism. It is the absolute, mathematical result of their internal, emotional agreements. The first employee holds an inner agreement of expectation and safety. They inherently expect their needs to be met, and they do not constantly resist the flow of life. When they spend money, they do not feel a sense of terror. They feel the natural, harmonious rhythm of circulation. The second employee operates in a constant, paralyzing state of financial defense. They are always waiting for the other shoe to drop. They hold an absolute, ironclad agreement with disaster. Because they deeply expect emergencies and worry about them constantly, their subconscious mind acts like a powerful, sweeping magnet, drawing emergency situations to them so they can frantically spend the money they were so terrified of losing. Their inner resistance to wealth creates a psychological pressure cooker that inevitably blows up in the form of sudden expenses. They are unconsciously constructing the exact disasters they consciously pray to avoid, simply because their dominant emotional agreement is rooted in the expectation of catastrophe. To completely master the law of non-resistance and change your financial destiny tonight, you must change your inner posture from defensive fear to open, calm allowance. You must stop protecting yourself from poverty and start aligning yourself entirely with abundance. When a bill arrives in the mail or in your inbox, do not violently contract in fear. A bill is simply a physical record of a service already rendered to you. Someone trusted you enough to provide you with electricity, water, or shelter before you even handed them a single coin. Bless the bill. Look at it and silently agree with your own immense ability to pay it. Tell yourself with absolute authority that the money to cover this obligation is already in your possession by divine right, even if your physical eyes cannot see it yet. By refusing to feel terror, you instantly cut off the emotional fuel that feeds financial struggle. You stand completely unaffected by the temporary appearance of lack. This is what it truly means to be undisturbed by appearances. When you finally reach a state where a low bank balance no longer triggers a panic attack, you have won the internal game. And once the internal game is won, the external reality has absolutely no choice but to shift rapidly to match your new vibration of unbothered, limitless wealth. You have dropped the sword, you have stopped the exhausting fight, and you have finally opened the massive gates for your divine supply to rush in. Before we enter the profound internal work of clearing your specific channels in Part 3, I want to invite you to solidify your commitment to this journey today. If you are feeling the heavy chains of financial resistance beginning to loosen in your mind right now, make a deliberate physical action to anchor this new vibration. Subscribe to this channel and like this video to send a clear, undeniable signal to your subconscious mind that you are entirely dedicated to mastering the game of wealth. Join our growing community of awakened minds, and let us continue this powerful transformation together. Now we must look closely at the precise nature of the blockages we discussed in the previous section. Once you have stopped fighting the external reality, you must examine the internal channels through which your wealth is meant to flow. I want you to understand a fundamental truth that will instantly liberate you from the agonizing grip of scarcity. You do not suffer from a lack of supply. The great organizing intelligence of this universe knows absolutely no lack. There is no shortage of provision in the divine mind. What you are actually suffering from is a blocked channel. Imagine a magnificent, rushing river filled with crystal clear, life-giving water. The source of this river is infinite, constantly pouring out a massive volume of water. But if you walk downstream and look at the riverbed, you might see only a pathetic, muddy trickle. The supply has not dried up. The source has not failed you. The river has simply become violently choked with heavy debris. Your financial life operates in the exact same manner. The river of your abundance is clogged with the debris of fear, resentment, and a profound, often entirely hidden sense of unworthiness. When you complain that the money is not coming, you are essentially standing in the dry riverbed, blaming the ocean for your thirst, while completely ignoring the massive dam of negative beliefs you have built across your own channel. We must dismantle the specific pieces of debris that build this dam, starting with the most insidious one of all, financial guilt. Many wonderful, deeply moral, and incredibly kind people unknowingly push wealth away every single day because they harbor a secret, toxic belief that having more than others is somehow greedy. They carry a subconscious program that equates goodness with struggle, believing that poverty is a badge of spiritual honor and that the wealthy are inherently corrupt. This is a tragic misunderstanding of universal law. Let me speak to you with absolute clarity. Money is neither moral nor immoral. It is a completely neutral, obedient energy. It simply magnifies the heart that holds it. If you give wealth to a generous, loving soul, that wealth will be used to build schools, feed the hungry, and create profound beauty in the world. If you give wealth to a fearful, hoarding mind, it will simply build a larger prison of anxiety. When you subconsciously reject wealth because you want to be a good person, you are robbing the world of the immense good you could do if your hands were financially equipped. You must stop apologizing for desiring expansion. The desire for abundance is simply the divine urge within you, seeking a wider, fuller expression of life. To completely clear the channel and invite this wider expression of life, you must master a specific 4-part rhythm. This rhythm consists of expectation, emotion, permission, and flow. Expectation is the advance signal you send ahead of you into the universe. Emotion is the undeniable magnetic force that energizes that signal. Permission is the internal gate that you either swing wide open or lock entirely. Flow is simply the inevitable physical result of the first 3. If you expect your bills to swallow your income, if you feel terror when looking at your bank account, and if you feel guilty about desiring wealth, you unconsciously slam the iron gate of permission entirely shut. If you expect divine provision, feel deep gratitude before the money even arrives, and permit yourself to experience increase without guilt. The gate swings wide open. Here is where human behavior becomes almost comical. Many people pray passionately for financial abundance, declare their affirmations, and then panic 5 minutes later when they check their banking app. They treat their bank account like a casino slot machine, refreshing the screen with a racing heart, desperately looking for a miracle. Faith does not mean experiencing extreme anxiety while using polite, spiritual words. Active faith is a state of calm, unshakable expectation. It is exactly like ordering a magnificent meal at a highly respected restaurant. You place your order with the waiter, and then you sit back and enjoy the conversation at your table. You do not sprint into the kitchen every 3 minutes to supervise the chef and panic that your food will never arrive. You know the kitchen is working on it. You must treat your divine supply with the exact same level of relaxed authority. Finally, we must address the ultimate destroyer of the financial channel. This is the heavy debris of resentment. I want you to observe your own mind the next time you scroll through social media and see someone showcasing their brand new car, their beautiful home, or their spectacular vacation. If your immediate internal response is a heavy sigh and the sarcastic thought, "Must be nice," you have just completely choked your own financial flow. That single phrase alone is a declaration of bitter lack. What you resent, you permanently reject. If the sight of another person's wealth disgusts you or makes you feel inferior, your subconscious mind will obediently protect you from ever experiencing the disgusting state of being wealthy. Your subconscious is always listening to your emotional reactions. From this night forward, we replace all resentment with active, joyous blessing. When you see someone prospering, you must view it as physical proof that the law of abundance is real and actively working in your vicinity. You must say quietly to yourself, "Wonderful. Wealth circulates freely, and there is infinitely more than enough for everyone, including me." You are no longer comparing yourself to them. You are aligning your energy with the frequency of their manifestation. You are proving to your own subconscious that you are entirely comfortable and safe in the presence of massive wealth. By removing the debris of guilt, mastering the rhythm of calm expectation, and blessing the good fortune of others, your channel becomes brilliantly clear. The dam is broken, the river rushes forward, and you are finally prepared to properly direct this magnificent flow as we move into your nightly practice. We have successfully cleared the debris of resentment and opened the internal channels of your mind through the profound law of circulation. Now we must address the most critical, fertile, and powerful period of your entire day. This is the precise period where your conscious mind completely surrenders its rigid control and your subconscious mind takes over absolute dominion. I am speaking of the sacred hours you spend in sleep. You must stop viewing sleep merely as a biological necessity for resting your exhausted physical body. Sleep is a profound spiritual gateway. During your waking hours, your conscious intellect acts as a highly skeptical, relentless guard standing firmly at the door of your subconscious garden. This logical guard analyzes every single thought you have, argues fiercely with your desires, stares constantly at your current bank balance, and continuously shouts that wealth is a logical impossibility. But as you lie down in your bed at night and drift toward the heavy state of sleep, this conscious guard finally grows completely exhausted and steps aside. The heavy iron door to the deepest, most wildly creative part of your mind swings wide open. In this twilight state, between waking and sleeping, your subconscious mind becomes perfectly and completely receptive. It will quietly accept absolutely any instruction you hand to it without a single logical argument. It literally takes whatever dominant emotional state you are holding in those final waking moments and uses it as the foundational architectural blueprint to automatically construct your reality for the following day. This profound psychological truth brings us to a devastating realization about how the vast majority of humanity utilizes this immensely powerful time. Instead of using this wide-open gateway to carefully plant seeds of immense prosperity and peace, the average person unknowingly turns their bed into a dark torture chamber of financial anxiety. As they lie down in the quiet dark, they immediately begin projecting a tragic movie marathon on the screen of their mind. They frantically calculate their mounting debts. They endlessly replay their past financial mistakes. They worry intensely about upcoming bills. And they physically tense their shoulders and jaw in sheer survival panic. By falling asleep in a state of gripping financial terror, they are quite literally commanding their tireless subconscious mind to spend the next 8 uninterrupted hours organizing more lack, more restriction, and more terrifying emergencies for their immediate future. We must completely and permanently break this destructive cycle tonight. You must learn the profound, spiritual art of casting the burden. Casting the burden means taking that heavy, suffocating, paralyzing boulder of financial worry and deliberately handing it over to the infinite, unfailing intelligence within you. It is the absolute, unshakable refusal to do the mathematics of lack in the dark. You are not running away from your worldly responsibilities. You are simply recognizing, with deep humility, that your anxious, fearful human intellect does not possess the capacity to solve the problem, but the divine intelligence within you already knows the perfect, frictionless solution to every single financial demand of your life. You must mentally lay the heavy armor down before your head ever touches the pillow. To successfully cast this massive burden and permanently reprogram your internal machinery, you must anchor your new spiritual intention in the physical world right before you sleep. Passive inspiration without immediate physical action is merely entertainment. And we are not here to be entertained. We are here to transform reality. Tonight, I require you to perform a simple, almost playful, but profoundly effective physical act. Take a physical notebook and a pen. There is an immense, almost magical power in the tactile act of physically writing words on paper because it sharply focuses your wandering mind and forces your physical body to actively participate in your new spiritual decree. Write down this exact statement with the absolute authority of a sovereign ruler dictating a new law. Money flows to me freely, joyfully, and in continuously increasing amounts. As you write these powerful words, you must understand that you are not lying to yourself about your current bank balance. You are firmly installing a brand new expectation into the soil of your mind. After you write that primary decree, you must intentionally widen the river of your supply by writing down 3 specific channels through which this money can physically arrive. It might be a brilliant new business opportunity, an unexpected idea that creates massive passive income, or a sudden, highly lucrative connection. By taking the time to write down these channels, you are actively telling the universe that you are finally open to receiving your divine supply from both entirely expected and highly unexpected sources. You are removing the restrictive ceiling you previously placed upon the divine. The final, most crucial, and deeply intimate step of this nightly practice occurs exactly in the moment you close your eyes to sleep. As you lie there in the quiet stillness, you must intentionally generate the specific, overwhelming emotion of absolute relief. Your subconscious mind always responds far more powerfully to your genuine emotional state than to any beautifully constructed words you speak. If you silently repeat affirmations of staggering wealth but continue to feel a deep, desperate panic tightening your chest, your mind will ignore the words and faithfully manifest the panic. You must feel the profound, physical relief of knowing with absolute certainty that the heavy burden has been completely lifted and the perfect solution is already fully formed in the invisible realm. You must practice specific gratitude before you ever see a single shred of physical evidence. Silently declare to the dark room, "Thank you for the massive financial provision I cannot yet see, and thank you for the supreme financial peace that is completely replacing all my previous pressure." Gratitude is the ultimate emotional permission and the absolute signal of readiness to receive. I want you to commit to this exact nightly practice for the next 7 consecutive nights. Do this gently, calmly, and without any trace of desperate obsession. Treat it exactly like planting a highly valuable, rare seed in the fertile soil of your garden. You do not frantically dig up a seed every single hour to check if it has grown roots. You plant it firmly, you water it with the emotion of gratitude, and you rest in the absolute certainty that it is growing powerfully in the dark. While you sleep in this state of relieved expectation, your deeper mind will tirelessly organize solutions, form brilliant ideas, and align massive opportunities on your behalf. We emerge from the sacred twilight of your nightly practice into the sharp light of your waking hours. You have successfully planted the seed of immense prosperity in the deep soil of your subconscious mind while you slept. But now you must physically rise and walk through the material world. Here is where the vast majority of highly spiritual seekers experience a devastating failure. They fall into the seductive trap of spiritual laziness, mistakenly believing that because they have prayed and visualized, they can simply sit in an armchair with their eyes closed and wait for a bag of gold to drop through their ceiling. You must understand that flow is the absolute harmony between internal alignment and external physical movement. Your subconscious mind will begin to tirelessly organize circumstances, people, and events to bring your wealth into the physical dimension, but it will frequently present these miracles disguised as profound responsibilities or sudden bursts of intuition. Intuition is the highly sophisticated, unerring voice of the divine intelligence, speaking directly to your conscious mind. You might suddenly feel a powerful urge to learn a completely new skill, to reach out to a specific individual you have not spoken to in years, to walk down a different street, or to apply for an opportunity that seems entirely out of your reach. You must obey these intuitive leads instantly and without question. Supply often arrives wearing the plain work clothes of an unexpected assignment or a sudden inspiration to create something new. If you affirm absolute abundance all night but arrogantly ignore the subtle physical opportunities presented to you the next day, you instantly narrow the channel back down to a tiny trickle. You must move your physical body in the direction of your internal vision. Delay is the absolute enemy of momentum. When the divine intelligence whispers an instruction into your mind, you must act quickly, confidently, and with the joyful expectation that this single action is the exact bridge leading directly to your manifested wealth. As you begin to take these inspired actions, you will inevitably collide with the most deeply hidden, invisible wall inside your own psychology. This is the formidable wall of your current identity. Many people passionately claim they want massive wealth, but they are emotionally addicted to their deeply ingrained identity as the eternal struggler. It has become the core narrative of their entire existence. They proudly wear the heavy badge of the exhausted warrior, constantly telling anyone who will listen that they have always had to fight fiercely for every single thing they have ever gotten. If the struggle has become the foundation of your personality, your subconscious mind will view financial ease as a terrifying threat to your very existence. If money suddenly began flowing to you effortlessly, you would unconsciously feel a profound sense of psychological betrayal. Because who would you be if you were no longer the brave victim fighting against a cruel world? You must gently but firmly completely release this impoverished identity. You cannot hold on to the familiar comfort of your tragic story and simultaneously step into a reality of limitless grace. The old, exhausted identity must be entirely discarded like a garment you have finally outgrown. Tonight, and every day forward, you must adopt a new, deeply liberating sentence. You will not boldly declare that you are a billionaire right now if your conscious mind vehemently rejects that statement as a ridiculous lie. Instead, you will build a completely believable bridge for your intellect by declaring, "I am safely and joyfully becoming someone for whom money flows entirely naturally." Notice the profound architectural brilliance of the word becoming. The concept of continuous growth is entirely believable to your logical mind, and your subconscious accepts believable, gradual upgrades far more easily than it accepts sudden, shocking leaps that trigger your internal alarms. You are systematically dismantling the impoverished victim and constructing the unshakable sovereign. This total transformation of your identity must immediately reflect in exactly how you handle the physical currency you currently possess. No matter how small that amount might seem right now, we must establish the magnificent law of joyful spending and fearless circulation. Some of you desperately want millionaire results while stubbornly maintaining minimum wage, emotional habits. You want your money to behave radically differently while you continue to think the exact same terrified thoughts every time you open your wallet. That is exactly like planting cheap tomato seeds in the dirt and violently demanding a harvest of exotic mangoes. You must understand that every single time you spend physical money, you are making a loud, undeniable declaration to the universe about your fundamental belief in supply. When you grip your money so tightly that your knuckles turn white, terrified to spend even on basic necessities, your money begins to suffocate in the toxic atmosphere of your fear. You are declaring absolute loss. You are telling the universe that this money is the last money you will ever see. Flow requires constant, wise, and harmonious movement. Think of wealth exactly like the natural rhythm of your own lungs. Inhale deeply, exhale completely, receive joyfully, release fearlessly. When you spend your money with a deep, unshakable trust, silently declaring that there is an ocean of supply where this came from, you declare absolute continuity. I want you to completely eradicate the phrase, "I cannot afford that," from your vocabulary forever. That phrase violently slams the door of your mind shut. Instead, you must ask, "How can I easily align with that?" Furthermore, you must begin to practice joyful giving. When you tip a server slightly more than usual, or buy a cup of coffee for a stranger, with a heart entirely full of joy, rather than a heavy sense of obligation, you are forcefully moving yourself from the vibration of desperate survival into the magnificent frequency of endless circulation. The physical amount you give matters significantly less than the powerful emotion of total sufficiency behind the act. Finally, we arrive at the ultimate, glorious culmination of this entire spiritual process. The true purpose of this profound internal work is not merely to help you hoard enormous piles of green paper or accumulate staggering digital numbers on a banking screen. The ultimate destination is stepping fully into what the ancient spiritual teachers called your perfect self-expression and the divine design of your life. Every human being is born with a perfect, specific place to fill in this world, a unique brilliance that no one else can replicate. When you are constantly consumed by the terrifying mathematics of daily survival, you cannot hear the calling of your true purpose. Wealth is simply the natural, inevitable byproduct of a mind perfectly aligned with its divine assignment. You might have faced severe delays, agonizing disappointments, and dark periods where you did everything perfectly right and still felt completely stuck in the mud. I want you to understand a deeply liberating truth that will instantly wash away all your past bitterness. Divine delay is absolutely never divine denial. Often, those agonizing delays were actually profound periods of recalibration, rigorous preparation, and severe protection. If massive wealth had arrived while you still felt internally powerless and emotionally unstable, that wealth would have completely destroyed you, amplifying every single insecurity you possessed. But when massive supply finally arrives, after you have built a strong, unshakable, non-resistant spiritual foundation, it powerfully amplifies your confidence, your peace, and your spectacular generosity. Therefore, not a single second of your struggle was ever wasted. Every tight month, every closed door, and every financial frustration was rigorously training you, sharpening your discernment, and expanding your capacity to hold immense power without breaking. You are not running behind in the game of life. You have been beautifully and perfectly prepared. Your supply is completely constant. The ancient channels are actively reopening right now. The magnificent flow is resuming. As you move forward today, you are no longer chasing money in the dark. You are simply becoming the grand, unshakable, brilliantly aligned architecture that money absolutely cannot resist. You are not forcing money to come to you. You are simply removing the dam you built across the river. Commit to this practice for the next 7 nights. Write the decree. Bless the wealth of others. Go to sleep in a state of absolute relief. You will not be the same person a week from now. The heavy posture of poverty will leave your shoulders. When the first trickle of new supply appears, and it will acknowledge it instantly, say, "It has begun." Do not let this realization fade into the noise of tomorrow. Anchor it in the physical world right now. I want you to go to the comments below and boldly type the one old belief about money you are evicting tonight and write your new decree. My supply is endless. By typing it, you are signing a new contract with the universe. And if this message has brought light to your mind, ensure you are subscribed to this channel. We are building a fortress of wealth consciousness here, and you belong within it. Rest your mind now. The burden is lifted. Sleep tonight in the quiet expectation of good, and wake tomorrow ready to receive. The game is yours to win.